Time for the 49ers Rush Podcast. And here's your host, John Chapman.
Oh, what is going on, 49ers fans? We have movement. Maybe it's not the movement that everybody wants, but it is movement that will affect the 49ers this year, guaranteed. Baker Mayfield has been traded to the Carolina Panthers, which crosses off one landing spot for Jimmy and opens another one up. Now, what we're going to do today, I was on my way to the gym, but news broke and all this stuff. So I want to break down the trade. I want to break down the ramifications of the trade and what are some likely spots for Jimmy now that that's taken place. Because let's be real, okay? The Carolina Panthers wanted a quarterback the whole time. They want something surprising and young and fun and all those things. Jimmy's not those things. The Browns are different because the Browns need a quarterback this year. To Deshaun Watson, all that crazy BS stuff that continues to go on, we should hear within the week that's going to be a year-long suspension. That's my own whatever. The Browns are trying to win now. They're trying to win now. They have a roster to compete now. Baker Mayfield, played through injuries, whatever else, and whatever. They have a great roster. They have a really good roster. They should be able to win now. Now, here's what's crazy. The deal takes place just 17 minutes ago, was announced, and the Panthers are getting – listen to what they gave up. The Panthers traded a conditional fifth rounder, not a 2023 fifth rounder, a 2024 fifth rounder. And on top of that, the Browns are paying a large majority of the salary. So the Browns are paying $10.5 million to Baker to not play for them. They knocked $3.5 million off of his contract. So Baker is taking a pay cut. He said, hey, keep $3.5 million. I don't care. And then the rest of it, the Panthers are paying $5 million. So he was at about $19 million. So again, they're trading him. They're getting a 2024 fifth rounder conditional. They're paying $10.5 million, the Browns. Baker's basically losing $3.5 million, and then the Panthers are paying $5 million. Now, here's why that's so important. We've been saying for a minute here that if Jimmy G does get traded, which I think he will, this way more so now. I think the likelihood of him getting traded now, I think, has gone up just since we started talking about this. So Bid says, are they paying any of his salary? Yeah, $10.5 million. They're paying twice what the Panthers are playing just to get them there. And a big reason why this is they pigeonholed themselves. They pissed off the entire league by guaranteeing all that money. The Browns is they still have a lot of salary cap because once Deshaun goes on, the suspended indefinitely list, he won't count against the salary cap. So actually, the Browns have the most salary cap space in I believe that's, let me double check in cap space. And so that's a lot of money. So they could now, once the Deshaun Watson news hits place, then they could move on and pursue Jimmy Garoppolo. And if they do that, then it just makes too much sense. Now, people are saying like, oh, hey, they don't have any draft picks. Yeah, they do. Again, Baker Mayfield just went for a 2024 conditional fifth. The idea of getting like a second or third, that way by a long time ago. If you wanted that, you would have had to make the trade before he went for surgery, which the 49ers were blindsided by. That ruined whatever else. Then everybody made their own whatever. But if you just look at the draft picks for next year with the Cleveland Browns, they've got some room. Needless to say, they've got a lot of room. And so they're going to be able to make a trade just because, again, it's not going to cost much. You can probably get Jimmy Garoppolo for a fourth rounder. Now, the salary ramifications, that's going to have to change because very similar to what happened with Baker here. Teams are going to have to, the 49ers are going to have to, freaking, go get this and figure out how to do it with, what's it called? Salary cap. The 49ers are going to have to eat some of Jimmy G's salary. There's no doubt about it. And I think it will be a three-way thing. If Jimmy Garoppolo, which, man, the Browns would be a perfect spot for him because it'd be a tryout for a year on his last year of his deal. Then he'd be a free agent and could basically go wherever he wanted. Obviously, the Browns aren't going to franchise him because they were going to have, Deshaun Watson probably coming back eventually. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. My computer's doing something weird. Somebody said, got no notification. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, I don't know what's going on here. Computer was acting a little funny this morning. I need to go through and clean some stuff up. I apologize. But we'll get this out everywhere you guys listen. And if we got to re-release it on YouTube or whatever, we can. But it was just too important to not jump on because I'm telling you right now, and look at this, I'm a pretty big receipt guy, and sorry, I toot my own horn sometimes. I put this out in March. This is 6 weeks before the combine, before the draft, right? So March 10th, this is what I put out there. Quote, don't be shocked when Baker gets traded and Jimmy G is the quarterback for the Browns, end quote. And the funny thing is, like, you go through it, you read all the responses and stuff. I didn't have time to, scroll through all those things. People are like, man, you're insane, all that stuff. And I gave up hope on that. And so here's why I said that. Here's why I went through that whole ordeal and why I put that out there. I thought it was the best match for Jimmy, and it was the best match for the Browns. They have a win now roster. They wanted a quote unquote adult quarterback. Then they go and trade for somebody with 26 sexual assault accusations, whatever that is, whatever. Talent trumps everything. But you want an adult locker room quarterback that's not going to cost you games, a strong running game, and a good defense. That's Jimmy Garoppolo's MO. It just made too much sense. So I think that increases. But again, the pins that have to fall first, what's it called? Deshaun Watson's got to get suspended for the year. Then you'll bring him in. Now, for people saying, oh, they got Jacoby Brissett. Yeah, I get that. Who would you rather have? Jacoby Brissett or Jimmy Garoppolo? The answer is Jimmy Garoppolo for sure. Brissett's great. And, man, you know what? I'll be really honest with you. If I was the GM of the 49ers, I would call them and I'd try to get Brissett. I'd say, hey, let's just do a clean swap. You get Jimmy G, I get Jimmy Brissett. I'd be so happy with that. The 49ers would get a quality backup, non-threatening. I don't think Jimmy's really threatening, but it would be a clean break. Nice backup. Man, I would love Jimmy Brissett as a backup. That just makes a little bit too much sense there. I haven't really gone through all the ramifications of it. But again, if you're the Browns, there's no way they're going into this season with just Brissett as their quarterback option. Now, you had to get rid of Baker because of his personality, because of the way in which you pursued Watson, all those different things. But, I mean, Baker was never going to handle anything with grace. It's just not who he is. And if you thought he was, you haven't been paying attention. Jimmy's different. We've seen Jimmy be different. And if Jimmy goes in, it's the perfect landing spot on a one-year expiring contract. He gets to show out and then try to sign for a new team as a free agent, and he would be in control of his own destiny. It just makes too much sense to me. It really, really does. So I don't care. Here we go. Truman, appreciate your question here. Hold on just a sec. It says, so we're getting a 2024 fifth rounder pick for Jimmy, and we'll be paying most of his salary. No, I think that he will go for a little more than Baker because it is, I don't think that anybody's pissed off at the 49ers, right? Like they are the Browns for changing the entire salary, guaranteed salary pay that everybody's going to have to do now because of the Deshaun deal. But I don't know. I think a lot of people would be happy with that. I don't know. If I had to guess right now, I would say a pick swap probably is what the 49ers would get. And if that was the case, then, they do the pick swap where it's the 49ers give up a sixth and they get back a fourth this year, something along those lines. But again, you got to pay attention to the salary cap ramifications. Because right now there's $24 million that's hung up on Jimmy G. So if you trade him, you get to keep a lot of that. And with that money, you could do some good, right? I don't think that's dependent upon the Debo contract. I do think it is a little more dependent upon the Bosa contract that will come up next year. So don't focus too much on the pick that they get. It should be more than what they got for Baker. That's much more of a high conflict area. Want to say shout out to my man Clayton, producer of the show. He jumping on, helping out with this. I really do appreciate that. And again, yeah, like I'm telling you guys, I really think that it's a likelihood. Now, I get this question a lot. What if we can't trade him? Are we going to release him? The 49ers are not releasing Jimmy Garoppolo. I understand why that makes logical sense to release him if you can't trade him. I get that. I'm telling you right now, that's not the way Kyle Shanahan operates. He's not walking away from Jimmy empty-handed. It doesn't matter if he gets a 2024 fourth rounder. Don't care. Don't care. I'm telling you, Kyle Shanahan would rather have Jimmy on the roster as a backup for Trey Lance all year than just release him. Now, Niner by nature, he says, Cleveland will not take on Jimmy's full contract. I agree. I don't think anybody will. We should just cut Jimmy, roll over the money, and move on. Now, that's not logically, you are correct. But it's not you and me making these decisions. It's Kyle Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan's making these decisions. John Lynch to a lesser extent. That's why I don't think there's any chance he gets cut. I don't think there's a way. Even if the 49ers agreed to pay $10 million, you've got the Browns, they pay $10 million and Jimmy cuts $4 million off, just very similar to what just happened. I think that is a likelier scenario. He's not being released. I just don't see it. I just do not see it. What's the language that we've been saying they'd be using all year long? Oh, well, we've got two, starting caliber NFL quarterbacks, and we think that's a position of strength, and we're going to keep that. And that's just the way I say it. So I'll tell you this. And again, I'm not going to be on here too long. I'm going to be joining Rohan today at 1 p.m., which I'm going to be excited. Going to be on his show. I'll see if I can simulcast it on our show as well, talking some 49er stuff. So we've got a lot more content coming out. And yeah, here you go. Niner, I think I agree with this statement. Shanahan would rather lose $25.5 million for next year's free agency. How is that displaying a good head coach? He doesn't see it as, think about the years that Shanahan has not had a winning season. It was because of injuries. You can have a winning season with Jimmy Garoppolo. You can. Now, can he win the Super Bowl? Nah, not because of him, but he's good enough to get you there. So in Shanahan's mind, I could see him sitting there and saying, hey, $25 million guarantees us in the playoffs, no matter what. Because if Lance gets hurt or doesn't pan out, we'll just insert Jimmy G and we'll be just fine. Our conference got way worse. The Rams are still good, but they lost 8 starters and replaced them with 3 starters. Arizona took a major step back, and Seattle, they're on the side of the road. So I'm not saying that's what I believe they should do. That's a different conversation. It's a different conversation. What we'll do, that's the thing. Jump into Shanahan and Lynch's brain. You don't walk away from Jimmy G. I'm just telling you they're not going to. And if I'm wrong, I'll be the first one to tell you I'm wrong. And that's okay. Like I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. Mike says this, keep Jimmy and have 2 quarterback scheme like Breeze and Hill. Yeah. I think it'd be much more just insurance protection from injuries because again, I just did one on our roster countdown series, Nate Sudfeld. I don't think anybody wants Sudfeld starting games. And so ideally you trade Jimmy. That's what everybody's saying. That's what John Lynch has said. That's what Kyle Shanahan said. That's pretty much what Jimmy said. Like that's what everybody wants, but you've got to get that thing going. What's up, Perk? Glad to have you here, man. So I think that a trade is more likely now for Jimmy G to Cleveland, which I think is just a perfect landing spot. The last domino to fall is the year-long suspension for Deshaun Watson, which is going to happen in the next week or so. And then got to make it through the appeal, which, we'll see if they just forgo that or whatever. But, Deshaun Watson's getting his money regardless. But once that year-long suspension, that's when I think something would move. And it's much more likely now. Let's see. How do we keep Jimmy's contract and sign Bosa? Debo will be signed regardless of Jimmy's contract. That's not going to affect the cap because it goes off the cap this year. This is the last year with new TV deals and all those things moving forward. But it will make the Bosa deal much easier. That's the difference. I don't think Jimmy's contract really affects Debo's deal at all. I do think that it would help significantly with Bosa's deal next year. Shot J, appreciate it. Like, subscribe, Patreon, all those things. Love it. And again, guys, just want to let you guys know, if you haven't heard yet, we've got one of the coolest best ball things going on for fantasy. If you're a fantasy player, here you go. All right, my 49ers fantasy people, we are announcing now. I'm excited about this. We've done fantasy leagues with the 49ers Rush for 3 years now. This will be year 4, but we're going to do it differently this year. We are partnering with Mikey from Basement Brood Fantasy Football. And if you haven't followed him yet, please go do so at BBFF Mikey. The dude's incredible. This is what he does full time, is he runs best ball and fantasy tournaments and things like that. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to enter in, and anybody that wants to join can. If you don't want to, whatever. It's basically $50 to join. This is a best ball league, which means it's all the best things of fantasy and none of the worst. You draft your team. We do a slow draft, usually get about 8 hours on the clock, pause at nights, whatever. You draft your team, and then that's it. You don't have to set your lineup. It goes throughout the entire season. Let's say you draft 3 quarterbacks. Whoever the best quarterback week 1 gets put into your lineup automatically. Your 2 best running backs, your 3 best wide receivers, your tight end, so on and so forth. So you build your roster basically like a GM. And it just goes through the season, and you get to keep track of who's winning and all that. There's no transactions. There's no anything. So if there's those people like me that are crazy busy during football season, this is the way to go. Now, here's the best part. If you win your league, which we're going to put 12 people in a league, you get an autographed 49ers jersey. We're in, different players and whatever else, whether that's, a Jerry Rice jersey, George Kittle jersey, a Ronnie Lott signed jersey, things like that. Second place gets an autographed mini helmet. So each league, that's going to be covered. First place gets an autographed jersey, and second place is going to get an autographed mini helmet. If you want to enter into this, very, very simple. All you got to do is just PayPal over some money. PayPal at Lamar Chapman, Lamar Chapman, Chapman. Whenever you put that in there, you'll see my ugly face. Now, this is important because PayPal, you can't do fantasy stuff. All you have to do is put 49ers in your email. Do not put anything about fantasy, please. That will be stressful and cause problems with my PayPal account. So just put 49ers in your email address, and then once you get in there, we'll email you all the instructions and set up the league and all those things. Mikey's going to be running it. I'm going to be helping, but he's a professional at this, so I don't want to step on his toes. But can you beat me and all the other 49ers Rush community in fantasy? We'll see. And we've got plenty of room for leagues. We'll see how it. Last year we did 7. We'll see if we can do more. So again, 49ers Best Ball Fantasy Tournament, going to be an absolute blast. Can't wait. Send over that money. And if you don't have PayPal, just email me, 49ersRushPodcast@gmail.com, and we'll set up another play, whether that's, Venmo, Cash App, whatever. We'll figure it out. But if you want to participate in, with the community, we will find a way to get you in there. So check it out. Excited about this one. Y'all better bring your A game. I'm bad at fantasy, actually, but that's okay. I'm going to beat you guys anyway. All right. Thanks, guys. All right. Something else I just thought of. The 49ers are traveling to Carolina this year, which we're going to be at with the 49ers Rush road trip, which means Bosa gets to reunite with Baker Mayfield, which makes me so happy. Oh, it makes me so happy. I love it. I love it. I love it. Here we go. Some Deshaun talk. Thought the rumor was 6 to 8 games for Deshaun. No, that is not the rumor. Not sure where you heard that. The NFL came out openly and said they are seeking an indefinite suspension with the minimum being 1 year. So, they had the arbitration meetings with the judge. They had 3 days of meetings last week. It's going to be a long one, guys. Oh, Rahan, the man, excited to be on his channel later today at 1 p.m. So if you haven't yet, go type in Rohan 49ers hit subscribe to his channel. We're going to be on there. We're going to be debating some stuff, probably talking some more Jimmy G in this trade. But this is huge. The 49ers are in a better position now. Look at Perk. He says Panthers have 2 sorry quarterbacks. Yeah, maybe 3 with Matt Corral there. Combine them and get 1 decent quarterback. That's a bad team, man. And they're not in a good situation. They're really, really not. I'm glad they're on our schedule. One of my favorite games this year is going to be that traveling all the way out there. Road games that are inferior opponents are a wonderful thing. It's one of the few things that you can do to guarantee you're going to be in the playoffs is win road games against bad teams. Play quality teams at home, crappy teams on the road. And Cleveland, Atlanta, you got Seattle. You got some bad road games, which I'm excited about. That's awesome. It's going to help out a lot. So, yeah, Rohan's awesome, man. Appreciate that, Kali. So, hopefully you guys understand. More likely that Jimmy G gets